Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before I get into the video, I gotta address the masterpiece that is whatever this thing is. This is what happens when your girl's got a lot of exams and projects, and I didn't have time to draw Quaquaval. I didn't feel like it. That Pokemon has a very complicated design, and yeah, this is what we get. Anyways, today I am going to be showing you guys the team that got me to Veteran, and I actually can't believe I got to Veteran using Quaquaval. The team is going to be that Cursed Ducky on the lead with Roserade as a safe swap and Ferrothorn in the back. Quaquaval's biggest weaknesses are going to be Lantern and Tentacruel, and I feel like the back two Pokemon will handle both of those really well, especially Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is absolutely going to wall both Tentacruel and Lantern. The one Pokemon I would say the team struggles against most is Tropius, but even Tropius is manageable with this team. But overall, I think the team doesn't have any really glaring weaknesses, so I think it's pretty balanced. And if you guys want to try it out, it's super fun. I actually wouldn't recommend it for climbing. It did get me to Veteran, but it is a little bit on the squishier side. I mean, Quaquaval and Roserade by themselves need their own shields, and it's a little bit more unconventional. It will take a little bit of time to get used to. But anyways, that's enough rambling from me. Let's get into these battles. Up first, we are going to be seeing an Abomasnow on the lead, and that is a good lead for us because Quaquaval is fighting in water typing, so it is going to be resisting the ice type moves. Now my opponent swaps in a Seeking, and for some reason, I stay in and I throw an Aerial Ace and I don't swap immediately into my Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is going to be taking neutral from both Icy Wind and Drill Run, so I could have swapped into it immediately. For some reason, I went for an Aerial Ace. But anyways, my opponent is going to let their Seeking go, and they bring Abomasnow back in. We're able to get a Flash Cannon off, but unfortunately they do farm us down. Now I call a Weather Ball here, we call it correctly, we no-shield that, and then my opponent catches the Aerial Ace on a Lantern. So unfortunate for us, but I am going to bring Roserade in, and I'm going to go immediately for the Grass Knot. Hopefully my opponent does not shield. They don't. We're able to take the Lantern out, and now I'm just going to double shield my Roserade against this Abomasnow. I should be able to get it low enough to wing attack it down with my Quaquaval, or I should be able to take it out with Roserade because the poison jabs are OP. Moving on to the next match, we are going to see another nice lead of Empoleon. Now, usually my opponents will choose to stay in and go for a Drill Peck. Quaquaval and Empoleon reach Drill Peck and Close Combat at the same time. But anyways, I like to farm up to almost 2 Close Combats on Quaquaval before throwing because I don't want to debuff myself, and the Steel Wings from Empoleon actually hurt quite a bit. Now in this instance, my opponent immediately swapped into a Ferrothorn. I brought in Roserade. They let the Weather Ball go. I also let the Flash Cannon go. We survived with 1 HP. I was able to take the Ferrothorn out. Now they are going to bring Empoleon back in, and of course I am going to bring Quaquaval in against this Empoleon, but my opponent, and I don't know how I let my opponent get away with this, they caught the Close Combat on a Tropius, and it was the slowest catch ever. I don't know how I didn't see that coming, but I was tapping on the move and it just happened. So they caught it on a Tropius. Well played to my opponent, and I'm going to bring Ferrothorn in now. Hopefully we can take the Tropius out. They do have a shield left. They let the Power Whip go on the Tropius, so we're able to take it out, and then we also reach another Power Whip on Empoleon. Of course they are going to save their shield because I have a Close Combat on Quaquaval, but because they no-shielded the Power Whip, they are in Aerial Ace range, so I'm able to reach 2 Aerial Aces, throw the first one to get their final shield, and then the second one lands, and we also live that with very little HP on Quaquaval, and we take that win. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next game, and oh boy, does Quaquaval absolutely shine in this game. We are going to be seeing an Empoleon on the lead. Now my opponent goes immediately for the Drill Peck. I'm going to go ahead and shield, and then I almost farm up to 2 Close Combats before throwing, and my opponent actually no-shields the Close Combat. We're able to one-shot the Empoleon and take it out, and then my opponent is going to bring in a Lantern. I don't want my opponent to farm me down, so I immediately swap into my Roserade. My opponent is going to swap into their own Roserade, and here I CMP tied on the Weather Ball because I wanted to force my opponent to throw it. Now I should be able to wing attack the Roserade down without taking a move from Roserade, go for a Close Combat on the Lantern, and Ferrothorn is absolutely going to wall Lantern, but my opponent actually let the second close combat go, so we were able to just take that win with the ducky. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next match, we are going to be seeing a tricky lead for the team. This is tricky because I can't really swap Roserade into this, and if I swap Ferrothorn, I am going to draw out a Ferrothorn counter. So I kind of have to stay in this and do as much neutral damage as I can with Quaquaval. I'm just going straight for aerial aces. I was able to land 2 aerial aces on the Tentacruel, and my plan here was to farm it down with Ferrothorn, but my opponent swaps immediately into Trevenant. I bring Roserade in, I'm gonna go for a Weather Ball, they let the Weather Ball go, and here I decide to shield my Roserade up in case I need it for whatever's in the back. Now my opponent is going to have a Roserade in the back, so it doesn't look like we are going to win this because Roserade can land a Weather Ball on Ferrothorn, and that will absolutely hurt us. There's no point in me shielding this because my opponent has a shield left and they'll be able to reach another Weather Ball, so I let the Weather Ball go. They even bring Tentacruel in and they're able to take us out with Tenta. So GG's to our opponent. Unfortunately, we are going to take a loss there. Moving on to the next match, we are going to see a Core Breaker, and I actually hadn't thought about this Core Breaker. I can't swap Roserade into this because Roserade is going to be taking super effective from the Confusions, and unfortunately Quaquaval is also going to be taking super effective from the Confusions. So I kind of had to let Quaquaval go. At least we took a shield from them, but then my opponent also has a Roserade in the back. I am able to take their final shield with the Flash Cannon, and then I bring in my own Roserade. I'm going to go ahead and double shield, and then I'm going to farm up as much energy as I can before throwing the Weather Ball and taking the Roserade out. Now, I was really hoping I could have enough energy to reach a Grass Knot on this Bruxish, but unfortunately, they are going to take us out with the Psychic Fangs, and my opponent is going to have an Abomasnow in the back. I was really hoping that the Flash Cannon would one-shot the Abomasnow, but it is not going to be enough. I was running Abomasnow earlier today, and my Abomasnow got one-shot by Flash Cannon, so I was really surprised. But I guess theirs might have been really good PvP IV. Like, I know mine isn't the best. So, GG's to my opponent. Unfortunately, we are going to take a loss there. Now, moving on to the next match, we do see a Poliwrath on the lead. And Poliwrath can get a little bit tricky because the counters are going to be doing neutral damage to our Quaquaval. And Quaquaval is quite squishy. But our opponent goes ahead and they swap into a Tentacruel, which is really good for us. I am going to be able to align our Ferrothorn now up against this Tentacruel. I'm going to go for these Power Whips, and my opponent decides to let their Tentacruel go. I immediately tap the Power Whip on the next Pokemon. They do bring in a Trevenant, and of course I am going to bring Roserade in against the Trevenant. My opponent brings their Poliwrath back in as soon as they see the Roserade, and then I bring in Quaquaval, and I'm just going to go for these Aerial Aces, which are of course going to be super effective against Poliwrath's fighting typing. I'm gonna go for another Aerial Ace to take my opponent's final shield. Now I should be in a good position to just shield Roserade up, farm up as much energy as I can, and I'm actually able to completely farm the Poliwrath down and almost have 2 Weather Balls for Trevenant. GG's to our opponent. Unfortunately, that is going to be a negative set, but you guys will see in the next set we are going to be able to reach Veteran. In the first game, we are going to be seeing a Poliwrath lead, and you can see how the counters are absolutely hurting, but it's okay, we are going to be able to outpace to the Aerial Aces. My opponent goes ahead and shields the first one, and I no-shield whatever this is. I was actually expecting an Icy Wind, but I go ahead and I tap the Aerial Ace immediately, and my opponent catches on a Lantern. I don't know why I'm playing like a noob, I'm just letting my opponents catch left and right today. But it's fine, they brought in a Lantern, and I'm going to try to take advantage of this as much as I can. I want to try to leave with at least a Power Whip and a half stored. I think I leave with 1 Power Whip. I'm going to be able to throw it on the Poliwrath if they had brought the Poliwrath back in, but they don't. They bring in Roserade, so I go immediately for the Flash Cannon. I'm going to let my Ferrothorn go. I'm in a really good position right now. My opponent has no shields left, and I have 2 shields left, so I can go ahead and 2-shield my Roserade. Now, I tried to catch a Weather Ball on my Quaquaval, but my opponent is a lot smarter than I am, so of course they don't fall for the catch. But it doesn't matter, we're still able to take that win because I'm able to throw the Grass Knot on the Poliwrath and take it out, and then get to a Weather Ball on the Roserade. So GG's to our opponent. That battle was really scuffed, but so are most of the battles in this set. Anyways, up next we are going to be seeing the sort of core breaker, it is going to be Tropius on the lead. I'm going to go immediately for these aerial aces up against this Tropius. At least we're able to land one, and then I swap into my Ferrothorn, which could be a dangerous move if my opponent has a better answer to Ferrothorn in the back. But they are going to bring a Golisopod into the Ferrothorn, and this is actually really good for me. They also let me farm so much energy on their Tropius, so I was able to throw 2 Power Whips on this Golisopod and get them really low. I do let the next X-Scissor go, and I let my Ferrothorn go. I'm going to bring Quaquaval in now, and I'm going to go for a full farm down on the Golisopod. Now I have energy for whatever my opponent is going to bring back in. They bring Tropius in, we throw the aerial ace, and we take their final shield. Now I'm going to go ahead and shield the aerial ace here. I'm going to go for a full farm down on the Tropius with my Roserade. However, my opponent is going to have an Empoleon in the back, and this can get really tricky, but my opponent doesn't throw a move on Roserade. They let me get to the Weather Ball. I'm able to take them out, and then I can Poison Jab the Tropius down and take that win. GG's to our opponent. I actually did not deserve that win. My opponent should have taken our Roserade out with the Drill Peck, and then they would have been able to Steel Wing our Quaquaval down because we were in that range. So this is the most scuffed 5-0 you guys will ever see. Anyways, moving on to the next match, we are going to be seeing a lead of Abomasnow, and I'm just going to go straight for Aerial Ace. Both of the moves that I have are going to be super effective against Abomasnow. They go ahead and they bait with a Weather Ball. I should have seen that coming, but I shield. We're both a shield down now, but then my opponent brings in a Poliwrath. I weaken it with an Aerial Ace before swapping into Roserade and going for a full farm down. I now have 2 Weather Balls stored on Roserade, so I'm going to go for that first Weather Ball against the Abomasnow, and this will take my opponent's final shield. Unfortunately, because we CMP tied, I'm not going to be able to throw the second Weather Ball. Now my opponent has a Jellicent in the back. I was a little bit switch locked, but that's okay because I was able to get so much energy on the duck, and now I should bring Ferrothorn in, go for a Power Whip, and it's not going to quite take the Jellicent out. It puts them very low. They are in wing attack range now, and my opponent is quite smart here. They don't fully charge the Shadow Ball, so I live with very little HP, and that means that their Abomasnow is going to be able to farm us down. But I have that energy on Quaquaval. I'm going to go immediately for the Aerial Ace and take the Abomasnow out and take that win. GG's to our opponent. This next match is going to be another win that I don't deserve, and I'll show you guys where. But we are going to be seeing a Ferrothorn on the lead. My opponent is going to go immediately for that Power Whip. I'm going to go ahead and shield, of course, and then I build up to almost 2 close combats. I just need 1 more wing attack to get to that second one, but my opponent chooses to let their Ferrothorn go. So this is good for me. I'm able to one-shot it, and then my opponent brings in a Tropius, and I definitely do not want to get farmed down, so I immediately bring in Roserade, and I'm just going to start damaging the Tropius as much as I can. I get a shield out of them with the Weather Ball, and then here I decide to shield because in my mind I wanted to do more damage to the Tropius. However, my opponent brings in their own Roserade. Gonna take their final shield with this next Weather Ball, but they are going to be able to farm us down completely. I'm in a really tricky situation now. I don't think Quaquaval wins CMP over Roserade, so I waited. I was going to bring Ferrothorn in, but the timer timed out before I tapped Ferrothorn. It brought Quaquaval in. My opponent, for some reason, did not react. They didn't throw a move. They threw a Poison Jab. I went immediately for the Aerial Ace, and I was able to take the fully loaded Roserade out, and then I was able to win that game. So another win that I really didn't deserve. Really weird 5-0 here, guys. I'm sorry. Moving on to the next match, we are going to be seeing that Abomasnow on the lead, and it is Shadow this time, so our wing attacks are going to be doing more damage. Now my opponent only farmed up to the Weather Ball, so I let that go, but of course it does so much damage to Quaquaval because, again, Quaquaval is super glassy. And then my opponent swaps into a Poliwrath. I go for an Aerial Ace to weaken the Poliwrath, and then here I'm just going to bring Roserade in and go for a full farm down on the Poliwrath, take the Poliwrath out, and now I have energy for their Abomasnow, and I should be able to reach 2 Weather Balls on the Abomasnow. This Weather Ball should take their final shield, and then the next one should take the Abomasnow out. We KO the Abomasnow, and my opponent is going to have a Lantern in the back, and I also have a Ferrothorn, so it was game over to my opponent. And with that, we get the final win that we need for that 5-0, and this 5-0 is going to take us just over Veteran. And you can argue I didn't deserve this. I know some of the games were really weird, but we still got the 5-0. You know, a 5-0 is a 5-0. It's just 1 point over veteran. 2501. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that. If you guys like my content, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like. It helps me out so much. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!